Good afternoon. You're listening to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. You've probably figured out by now that I am not Dean Sellers. I am the temporary host. My name is Mary Ann Thrush, and I'm the Department Chair of Social Sciences and Program Director for Criminal Justice Graduate Program. With us today is Dr. Wayne Davis, who is in charge of the undergraduate criminal justice program.
Hello.
And Rachel Schott, who is our wonderful retention specialist.
Thank you.
And they will each introduce themselves as we go along. Before we start, I'd like to talk just a little bit about our program, meaning the criminal justice program. One of the things that I tell my students in my intro is that the material in this course is what every educated person ought to know about the criminal justice system. It's very important, especially now when so much is happening with our criminal justice system, that we're informed. And in some ways it doesn't matter which side of the fence we're on, just so we know what the facts are and can back up our beliefs. The American culture is affected by what we teach and what we learn, especially those programs that we have in the School of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences at LMU. At LMU, we have 9 schools, graduate and undergraduate. We have 8 terminal degree programs, PhD programs, and 15 master's programs. In the School of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences, we focus on culture, past, present, and future. As you all know, if we learn from the past, we may avoid the mistakes of the future. We teach almost all of the general ed classes. We have transfer students. We have veterans returning to school. We have a large number of commuter students. If you are interested in applying, you can apply online by going to the LMU website and then admissions and applications. And I'll let Rachel talk a little bit more.
I was going to say, it's even gotten a little bit easier now. On the very front page of the website, there's a button on the far right that says Apply Now. And you can click on that. And, I remember it wasn't that long ago that I applied for college, but oh my, the paperwork. And it's really gotten a lot easier now to apply for school. A lot of things are digital, and you can fill out a lot of that stuff right online. If you need to stop and finish things in a few minutes, you can. So it's become an easier process every day for students of all ages. As you know, we end up with a lot of adult students as well. So,
And that's wonderful. Adult students really add to deepening the material and the discussions.
I agree 100%. We're thrilled to have them.
Let's start in talking about teaching criminal justice to undergraduates. Do you have some theories about how you teach, Dr. Davis?
Yes, for me, it's about teaching the students something that's useful in the field, something's going to be able to get them a job. So I'm not really interested in memorizing details unless it's important. It's going to get them in trouble in the field. But really, I like to give scenarios, put them in a situation, and teach them how to handle it. That way, when they encounter similar situations, they should be able to use what they know to solve problems. And it's not just about law enforcement problems, but about academic research too. So if they learn the process of researching one problem, they should be able to apply it to other areas.
I'm so grateful that we have Dr. Davis on our faculty, because he is just a star in the law enforcement area. As students going into law enforcement, policing, corrections, FBI, TBI, they love his courses.
Well, I have to say, I thought he was just really popular because he was right next to the copy machine, his office. I thought maybe students were just waiting on their copies and they would stop to chat, and then I realized that's not the case, that they're just lined up out the door just to hang out and have interesting conversations. And Yeah, I think we've all come to him when we get a ticket a time or two.
Good. Yeah. Yes, my approach to teaching is a little bit different. What I want to do is to really educate people and turn them on to learning. I start out usually telling my students that learning is one of the most wonderful things ever. You can let your curiosity go. Sometimes sitting at the computer on the library site, one thing leads to another, to another, to another, and pretty soon you know a whole bunch of things about things you didn't even think about before. Dr. Davis, would you talk just a little bit about the LMU Criminal Justice undergraduate program?
Yes, of all the schools that I've attended, Lincoln Memorial University is probably the best criminal justice program that I've seen. What I mean by that is that we really divide the program into 3 different areas. We have the core classes, the basic English, math, history, and we have the criminal justice major courses, but the other third is electives, and that allows the students to take classes that will gear them toward the field that they want to go to. So they want it to be learn about the food industry, be agriculture specialist. They could take classes, biology, chemistry, to focus on that type of law enforcement.
Wait a minute. Law enforcement and food?
Every field has a law enforcement component, basically.
Wow, I had no idea.
And so, but what I like about it is a lot of these jobs will say you got to have 18 credit hours of biology to qualify. Well, we have about 40 credit hours of electives, so they can actually qualify for 2 areas that many students at other colleges cannot.
Like food and anything else, right?
Right.
Wildlife, for instance.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Right now, forensics is really important, so they would want to minor in or have a double major in criminal justice and then biology or chemistry. Game wardens, again, fisheries and wildlife would be a good background for that. A lot of the students that I advise want to go into parole or probation, so they will double major or minor in psychology. Also, we have social workers who are minoring in criminal justice, which is wonderful. How do you see our program as different, Dr. Davis, than others?
Like I said, different in the sense that we give the students the opportunity to specialize in areas that they want to in the criminal justice field. And so other schools that I've been to, you only get one choice, business. Your degree is going to be business and criminal justice. But the electives, they could take whatever. They could take business, but they could also take like chemistry, art. Even like the FBI has people that specialize in art. So they could take these skills and qualify for jobs that people who are just in the business can't qualify for. They don't have enough credit hours. And if you look on the sites, the government sites, it will tell you how many credit hours are required in that for that particular position. Then you just match up the degree to whatever field you want to go to.
One of our students wants to go to work for TBI and eventually FBI, and he's doing summer internships with TBI, and he comes back with great stories. And they told him that he needed to not only have a criminal justice degree, but a strong minor. So he's minoring in business, which I think is an excellent combination. Yes, the thing that I'd like to say, it's not only about the criminal justice program. For the most part, I've either attended or taught at very large state schools. So this is my first experience with a small school. And honestly, I think students get so much more here that they really get a good education. And most of that, I think, is because we're like a healthy family, that the students, most of our faculty keep our doors open. So, like Rachel said, students will just walk by, and whether you're doing something or not, they will stop in and talk, which is great. I'd much rather talk to students. Yeah. But this is, I think, that personal quality here at LMU really is what makes LMU such a good college. And it's exciting to be here, too. We have a med school, a vet school, business school.
The law school.
Pardon?
The law school.
The law school. I want to talk a little bit more about the law school. I'll do it now. Okay. We have this incredible program. It's called the 3x3, And students can go to their community college for 2 years and come out with their AA degree, then come to LMU for their junior year. And then their senior year, if they qualify, they can, at the end of that senior year, they will have finished their baccalaureate degree and have their first year of law school under their belt. It's an incredible program for those students who are headed to law school. And the Duncan School of Law folks are just wonderful people. They do everything they can to help students pass the LSAT and pass the bar eventually. Let's see, where do we want to go next? The difference between criminology and criminal justice. Dr. Sellers prepared a list of questions for me, so I'm just going to go down the list. He's so good. The difference between criminology and criminal justice. I didn't know this when I started my PhD. So criminology is basically theory. Why do people commit crimes, basically? Why are crimes more prevalent in certain areas? And criminal justice is more applied, dealing with law enforcement, with probation, parole, court procedures, corrections, etc. Do you want to address that as well?
Yes, I think that criminology is like the academic research that we teach, and the criminal justice, like you're saying, with the work-related jobs.
Okay. We also offer internships. Our students have interned with Jared Effler, the district attorney. They have interned with Lee County Sheriff's Office, Knoxville Police Department, just about any area that they are interested in, we can figure out a way to get an internship or a practicum with them so that by the time they graduate, they have a little bit of practical applied experiences. We're very pleased about that.
Can I ask a question about the academic research here, Dr. Davis? In what way do students apply the academic research? In how in the field can they use their academic research skills?
I'll start with a simple example. If I said that somebody was hungry and they needed because they weren't eating, then the answer would be to give them food. It wouldn't make sense to talk about teaching them pro-social behaviors because I'm not applying the right theory to solve the problem. And what we do is the theory. If a student asks me, why do I care about theory? I would say you can't do academic research without it because you're trying to explain why a problem exists. And then the solution is also going to be determined by that. Because if you're saying, I think people are learning bad behaviors, then the answer is to teach them pro-social behaviors or to remove the antisocial learning. But also the theory also controls the survey itself. Because if you're going to ask questions, you've got to ask questions in alignment with the theory. So if I'm asking about social learning, I should say how often you practice something, how often you do this. I wouldn't ask about your social relationships with somebody else or bonding relationships because it's a different theory. So for validity reasons, the survey you have to demonstrate it's in alignment with the theory. And so, but anyway, if a police department said, hey, I want to implement this police community relations program, is it working? Well, we should be able to assess that in the field and say if the community is satisfied or not.
I see.
And academically, so we're not guessing. We're based on theory and the data, not analyze the data effectively.
And when we come back after break, I will add my 2 cents.
WLMU's broadcast and webcast is made possible by Lincoln Memorial University. Established in 1897, LMU is located alongside the Cumberland Mountains of East Tennessee, Southeast Kentucky, and Southwest Virginia. LMU offers educational opportunities that are based on the foundations of tradition, values, and service. To find out more about academics, campus life, athletics, admissions, and financial aid, you can visit their website, lmunet.edu.
On Wednesday evenings, you can tune your radio to WLMU and hear the best blues in the tri-state area with your host, Gary Daniels. He'll be playing the best blues artists of today and the best blues artists of yesteryear. Everything from Robert Johnson, Buddy Guy, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Muddy Waters, and many more. It's Wednesday Evening Blues from 9 to 11, right here on 91.3 WLMU.
You're listening to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. And with us this afternoon is Dr. Wayne Davis, who is the Program Director for Undergraduate Studies in Criminal Justice, and Rachel Schott, who is our Retention. Mm-hmm. And you have more words in that title, too.
Yeah, that's right. Recruiter and Student Success Coordinator.
There you go.
Yeah. And violinist. And Gary was just kind enough to use some music from my CD as our bump music. So I got a little distracted and blushing. Thank you, Gary.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. Before the break, Rachel asked how we apply theory. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. And,
okay.
Right. I have a very narrow view of what police officers do, so I didn't realize that the theory could be a part of it.
Well, I'm always thinking about the big picture. So theory and learning about theory helps us understand or ask questions about why. Why does this happen? You know, what are the conditions under which it happens? And it's not just criminal justice, although in criminal justice we do a lot of it, but it's about our life, and it helps us give meaning to our life, to situations that we find ourselves in. We have, as Dr. Davis mentioned, we have gen ed course, general education courses, we have required courses in criminal justice, and then we have a battery of electives where students can have minors in areas that they want to specialize in. So, Dr. Davis, do you want to talk just a little bit about why we need math, English, history?
Yeah, I would say that it's almost impossible to do good police work without no understanding math and English. The law book itself is already written in English logical statements, and what I mean by that is it says the word ands and ors. You have to, if the person is driving and they're intoxicated and they're in the state of Tennessee, the law book's written like that. What we do is we can convert that to mathematical statements and determine what the meanings are. Other things that we interested in is like quantifiers. And you ever hear that riddle about I have 3 coins, 25 cents, and one is not a nickel? What do I have? It's not a mystery if you understand quantifiers. If it exists one time, then it's true. If it exists no quantifier, if it's a universal quantifier, it has to be true all the time. When I said I have 3 coins, 25 cents, one is not a nickel. I didn't say all were not nickels. So I got 2 dimes a nickel. The law is like that too. When I see the signs out there that says the speed is radar controlled, it doesn't say it's only radar controlled. So if you get a speeding ticket based off laser or VASCAR or pace, that's still okay if at least one police officer uses radar. Then the sign would be truthful. So we're really applying math to the law itself. And then we use truth values. And what that means is if somebody was speaking to me and they said it's not a blue glass marble, that's not the same as it's not blue, it's not glass, it's not marble. Those two statements are almost the opposite. And I can show you through math that they're not even close. So when a person performs a certain act, when the police write it in the report, it makes a big difference of how they word it. The whole meaning of the statement changes. So yeah, we will apply math and English to the police reports. And if the students don't want to learn it, criminal justice students don't remember, you have to remember that the other side, the lawyers may learn it. So if you don't prepare yourself, you may see it in court.
Right, thanks. Rachel, when you introduce our program to new students, do you talk about the general education classes or requirements?
You know, the high school counselors are doing a great job, and the community college counselors, I think, are doing a great job of explaining the process of general education requirements. And that's been their experience mostly through high school. They've only done general education, and they understand they have to have so many Englishes and so many science and so many maths. The exciting part they want to ask me is, what are the classes and what kind of teachers teach the classes. So having the two of you, Dr. Thrush and Dr. Davis, with such varying backgrounds is exciting for me. It's easy for me to get excited about the program when I'm talking to students because I know that they're going to have one faculty member that they really connect with on a professional level and also on a personal level because I know how outgoing and great you guys are. So, yeah.
Yeah, one of the things that we try to do is make sure that our faculty has applied experience besides their specialization. And as we said, Dr. Davis is the pro about law enforcement. My applied experience is in corrections, but my heart is with theory. So, math and English, again, for me, it's not only about law enforcement, it's about being an educated person. And I can't tell you how it grates on my ears when I hear someone, or it's more likely to be in writing, write Y-O-U-R for your instead of Y-O-U''R-E.
I was just thinking, too, about the amount of diversity that's on LMU campus right now. I think I've only been here 5 years, and I've watched it change, bringing athletes in from other parts of the world and students now from other parts of the country. And I think, Dr. Davis, maybe you can chat about this. I think that's probably a very valuable experience for someone who's going into, well, law enforcement or criminology for that matter, because you run into all kinds of people, even if you're in the most homogeneous part of the country. As a law enforcement officer, you probably run into people from all over.
Yeah.
Yes, we do teach. It's all about totality of circumstances and different perspectives. Points of view are always should be considered because an officer, to make the best decision, you look at all the evidence, and the police officer has his own point of view, but to make the best decision, he needs to understand all the information. And we teach ethics as a part of that, because what is ethics? There's different points of view to judge good behavior. And some people might use religious ethics. Others might use the law, natural law, the law book. And so as long as it follows the law, it's good behavior. Other people have egoism. As long as the quotas, we had quotas, so we have to write a lot of tickets, and that my performance review depends on this. That's what I'm going to do. So there's different ways to judge good behavior, but we have to understand, the motive behind it, why people are doing things.
And do criminology students have to take a foreign language?
That's debatable. We're right in transition. I think
see.
all of us who advise students strongly suggest that they do take a foreign language, especially Spanish. Very necessary. And certainly they have a leg up if they have a foreign language. There's lots of research that says that learning another language increases our brain power. So it's a healthy thing to do. The topic of our program tonight is opiates and what we're doing about them. So I'd like to shift gears just a little bit and talk about that. I'm teaching drugs in society this semester, so maybe I'll start, and if the two of you would add at will. Okay, great. The first thing is, what is an opioid? It's a naturally occurring substance from the opium poppy, and that's a plant that grows 3 or 4 feet high, probably originated in the Middle East. Currently, about 90% of the world's opium comes from Afghanistan. Yeah, no kidding. All products from the opium poppy are called opioids. Some are natural, some are semi-synthetic, and others are totally synthetic. And the way they work is in receptors on the brain and the nervous system and endocrine glands. They've been in use for 6,000 years or more. The early Egyptians used opium to alleviate pain of wounds, and this is a good one, for excessive crying in children.
No.
Like we need to give our children opium. Maybe not.
It's like little Benadryl in the bottle theory, isn't it?
Probably not a good plan. Opium was the first drug ever banned in an international drug control treaty in 1912. The Chinese didn't realize that opium was an addictive substance until the late 17th century, and by that time more than 1/3 of Chinese males were addicted.
Oh my.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Yeah. We have a student calling in, Amanda Cox. She's in both of my classes that I teach this semester. So, Amanda, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Good deal. So, would you talk a little bit about your experience with the criminal justice classes that you've had here at LMU?
Sure. So I will say that the classes are challenging, but you do learn a lot of very useful knowledge. In some of my classes, we've learned historical information as well as modern society information to help us in the field. And then we also have other classes where we do actual examples such as fingerprinting or crime scene investigation.
Excellent. Excellent. And you are an older student coming back, and you have a wealth of information to share that's been really great.
Which one has been your favorite class so far?
I definitely say the Drugs and Drug Society course with Dr. Thresh. I've learned a lot of very helpful information in this course.
Okay. Thank you very much for calling in and sharing your experience with us. It's great to have you in our student body. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Let's see, I'll pick up with morphine. Morphine is the active ingredient in opium. It was isolated in 1806, and it's 10 times as potent as opium. Morphine has been incredibly useful medically because because the potency is well known. Unlike something like marijuana that you don't know what the potency is. It's easily purified from pure opium. Its spread was due to two developments. One was the invention of the hypodermic needle, hypodermic syringe in 1853, and that allowed the delivery of morphine directly into the body. Charles Pravez and Alexander Wood developed the mechanical hypodermic syringe with a needle that was fine enough to pierce the skin. And Alexander Wood experienced with injected morphine to treat neuralgia. He and his wife both became addicted.
Oh my goodness.
Not a good plan. And his wife was the first woman to die of an injected drug overdose.
Oh my goodness.
It's kind of like radioactivity. If you're experimenting with it and you don't know what you have, you can end up with the negative results.
I had no idea that this had been going on for so long.
Yeah.
It seems
long.
like such a new problem.
Right. No, long time. Both opium and morphine are Schedule II drugs. That means that they have a high potential for addiction and they have a medical use. The next opioid that you've probably heard a lot about is heroin. I was speaking with two women from the Department of Public Advocacy this last week, and they were telling me that heroin is the fastest growing drug of abuse in this part of the country, eastern Tennessee, eastern Kentucky, and western West Virginia.
And why is that?
It's cheap. It's plentiful. It comes up from Central and South America, generally into Detroit or the bigger cities, and then it comes down from there.
And it's made of the same things that morphine
opium.
is made. Okay,
Yeah,
so made
it's
of
purified
opium.
from opium. It's an alkaloid that was discovered in 1832. So morphine and codeine, which is the other one, were isolated, and researchers at Bayer Labs were able to formulate heroin from that. This is another fact. Heroin was first marketed as a cough suppressant,
Oh, good.
and it was placed on the market It's 3 times as potent as morphine. It was not a regulated drug when it first came out. You can see all of these early ads.
Yeah, I guess if you die of an overdose, you don't cough much anymore, do you?
Right, exactly. Originally, they thought. I'm sorry?
I said it took care of the cough, all right.
Yeah, sure did. Yeah, originally they thought it was non-habit forming, but and it was used for a substitute for morphine. And then they very quickly found that it was habit forming. And like I said, it's one of the fastest growing drugs of abuse. The other one I'll speak about just quickly is oxycodone. You've probably all heard about the abuse of prescription drugs. Basically, Percodan, Percocet, and Oxycontin. They'll grind it up and snuff it, snort it, or burn it, etc. And it's time for another break, and we'll be back in 2 minutes.
There is a jewel in the crown right here in our Cumberland Mountains, and it's the Abraham Lincoln Library and Museum, located here on the historic campus of LMU. It houses one of the top 5 Lincoln and Civil War collections in the entire world, and it's right here in our own backyard, located here in Harrogate, Tennessee, at the main entrance of LMU's campus. For more information, their number is 423-869-6235. And on the World Wide Web at lmunet.edu/museum.
Weekday mornings, over on our media partner WCXZ AM 740, you can tune your radio dial to Amos in the Morning. Host Tom Amos presents news, interviews, insight, and a little music. That's Amos in the Morning, Monday through Friday, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, on WCXZ AM 740, and online at 74WCXZ.com.
Broadcasting from our studios here on the historic campus of Lincoln Memorial University, this is WLMU, Harrogate, Tennessee, on the FM dial at 91.3, and you can find us streaming worldwide, 913thegap.com.
On Tuesday evenings here on WLMU, you can tune into Music City Roots, a nationally syndicated program that airs from the stage of the historic Loveless Cafe in Nashville, Tennessee. Music City Roots is recorded live and hosted by Jim Lauderdale. It features Americana, roots, rock, blues, string band, singer-songwriter, and other forms of American roots music. It's Music City Roots every Tuesday night from 6 to 7 here on WLMU.
For the best of jazz and big band, you can turn your radio dial to 91.3 FM to hear great artists such as Duke Ellington, Sonny Stitt, Dean Martin, Billie Holiday, and many other legendary musicians. That's the Thursday Night Jazz Cafe, from 9 to midnight on your radio dial at 91.3 FM and worldwide at 913thegap.com.
You're listening to American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences. And our topic for this evening, or this afternoon, is opioids and what we're doing about it. With us tonight are Dr. Wayne Davis and Rachel Schott. And Rachel, during the break, you were talking about something really interesting.
Yeah, just last night while I was making dinner, I was listening to a radio program on NPR about the drug use in the Third Reich, and how Hitler, who himself was a drug user, which I didn't quite understand, and they were using drugs as what we know now as tools to keep this energy up for the soldiers and whatnot.
Meth.
Yeah, it was actually meth.
It was meth, yeah. Methamphetamines.
Wow.
Yeah, scary stuff, huh? Let's see. I think maybe now would be a good time to shift to what we're doing about drugs and how we're trying to control them, the policing side of it. One of the more innovative ways that law enforcement is trying to stop the spread of this is when someone dies from an overdose, then they investigate and find out who was their dealer and kind of go backwards.
How do they know who their dealer was? Isn't that something that
Well, they
is
have
secret? I mean,
they have friends. They interview friends, acquaintances, etc., and probably a name comes up often enough.
And possibly follow the money trail.
That's
when it
true.
exists.
Yeah. Forensics, right? Okay, so where do we go from here? Okay, Dean Sellers says that we should talk about stop and frisk. Do you want to start there?
Okay, there's different levels of confidence that police need to do different activities. And if I was to simply flip a coin, heads or tails, that'd be 50% probability. And so the question is, first of all, how much confidence do I have to stop somebody? If I think that they may be involved in a crime, but I'm not sure, how much confidence do I have to have? And really, that's about 30% confidence level. I can stop somebody in order to question them about a crime. Now, we can only really frisk them if safety is involved. So if it's a safety issue, then we can frisk them. But if you can't, if the safety is not an issue, then you shouldn't be touching them. Now, to make an arrest, though, we only got to have 51% confidence that a crime has been committed, which is not very high. And so, and I tell the students, it doesn't really matter whether the police are right or wrong, as long as they're 51% confident that they're right. That they're right. And so, so we base it on totality of circumstance, and if 51% confidence that the person's involved in a crime, we can make the arrest.
It seems like there's kind of a fine line between profiling and working off of law enforcement officers' experience. Would you talk about that a little bit?
I saw something on YouTube where there was, I think it was Oregon. The guy was, the police were ordered to a location, and they said that a guy was waving a gun, and he was about 5'7", brown hair, brown eyes, about medium build. The police got there and they saw a man. He at that location, that height, that weight, that sex, but he wasn't waving the gun. It was holstered, and it was legal to have a holstered gun at that time. So the police call him over there. The first question is, do they have a right to stop him? And so, but the police, what they did is they called him over there, and this person said, "I'm a law student. I'm going to sue you. Am I being detained? Am I being detained?" And the officer took the gun, put it on the car, and he said, "I want to know if I'm being detained." He called the officer called the boss. Sergeant got there, and he kept demanding, "Am I being detained? I want both your badge numbers. I want to sue you." The officer gave the gun back, and they let the guy go. They ran it, and let the guy go. My question is, what I would have said if I was the medium build and he has a gun, that's more than 30%. I would say, yeah, you need to definitely stop him. Now, what happened if the guy was a bad person, and they give the guy the gun back, and he ended up killing somebody's daughter? If he killed my daughter, I would say, where do you get the gun from?
Yeah,
the officer.
Exactly.
Now, on the other hand, the officer, if they did do their job and they did run him, and I would have told the person, yes, you're being detained. No, you're not free to leave. I am going to run you, because remember, we're talking public safety. And so stop is very minimal intrusion, especially when we're looking at public safety. So I would have stopped him. I would have ran it. And if nothing came back, if he came back clear, I had no reason to hold him. And by the way, we can only really hold him long enough to do the job for a stop. So once I realized that I wasn't confident that he was involved in a crime, and it was his gun, I would have gave it back to him. But I would have told him, hey, I got all his personal information when I ran him, so I am going to look at any videos if there's anything in the area, and if I can get more evidence, you're free to go today. It doesn't mean you're free to go forever. So we'll file a warrant for his arrest if we can find more evidence later. So we may continue the investigation, but today, right now, I don't have really enough to make the arrest. I probably let him go. Okay. But the whole issue is, did I do my job well enough so I don't get sued? So when they say, hey, did you, based on what you knew, did you do your job good enough?
Yeah.
Hey, there was another case.
We have another student on the line right now, Brandon Goins. I think I know he's in one of my classes, and I think he's in one of yours. Yeah. Hi, Brandon.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, can't complain.
Good. Would you tell us a little bit about what your experience has been here at LMU with the criminal justice classes?
It's been excellent. I can't think of a more perfect word than excellent. Every one of my professors, it's just been amazing to me that I get to have the contact with them that I do get to have versus, maybe a larger university where you end up talking to a teaching assistant instead of the teachers themselves.
Now, Brandon, you're from right here, right? Tazewell?
Yep, born and raised.
Yay! That's great. What made you choose LMU? Because I know you had a career before this as well. Is that right?
Yeah, I was in the military. When I got out, my wife and my children and I, we moved to Chattanooga. I went to school at Chattanooga State to get my associate's degree. And when I was looking to go on and pursue my bachelor's, I looked at a lot of different universities. And the thing that appealed to me about LMU was, like I said earlier, I get to have that contact with my instructors that I normally wouldn't get to have in other schools. And plus, they had opened up the Duncan School of Law, which was a big interest to me, and it still is. So everything kind of fell in order for me to want to choose this school.
Gotcha. Are you going to the open house on Thursday? Do you know about that? There's an open house, at the School of Law, Duncan School of Law, and I think it starts at 7 o'clock on the 23rd. So, no, I'm sorry, it starts at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, I have made plans to attend it.
Great.
Okay, good.
Always
You're
have
looking
good
into
snacks.
you're looking into the 3x3 program, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Excellent. Okay. Thanks for calling in. I'm very,
ma'am.
very
Thank you.
glad to have you in our program.
See you, Brandon.
Like I said, it's been great to be in y'all's classes and great to get to know y'all. And,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
We hear a lot about police shootings these days. Maybe we could talk about that issue a little bit. I've got some ideas about it from a consumer's viewpoint. What do you think about it?
I asked the students, when can the police use excessive force? And the answer is never. Even deadly force isn't excessive under the right conditions. And so the police are trained to use different levels of force depending on what they encounter. But really, deadly force should only really be used to save a life, even the officer's life, but if it's really for safety, save a life. If they're trained to use other techniques, they should use them when they can.
One of the things that I am concerned about, when I was a kid, the first person you'd go to if you were in trouble was a policeman. That's what we were taught. I remember in kindergarten, the policeman came with this little stoplight, and he taught us how to go on the green and stop on the red. It was great. And now, with everything that's going on with questioning policing, the actions, motivation, bias, etc., it's a little scary for me.
I wonder, too, with the recent changes in immigration policy, too, how, what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Davis, as far as, we'll stop and frisk for one, and the way that I'm hearing that we have some community members who are afraid to just even go outside, and they're now afraid of the police, even though the police are not immigration officials.
When I teach the classes, there's always two sides of the story, and I really don't care which side they take. Take one and use academic sources to present your argument. Then another student may take the other side and present arguments, academic peer-reviewed studies to support their argument. So your experts against their experts, and really there's no easy answer.
Yeah, there is no easy answer. Yeah. What about the police versus All Lives Matter or Black Lives Matter or Blue Lives Matter? I listen to I watch Facebook most every morning for a little while, and you see a lot about that. first it was Black Lives Matter, and then the next one was All Lives Matter, and then Blue Lives Matter. And I'm wondering when we're going to have Professors' Lives Matter. Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk about DUIs. I'm sure that there are lots of rules about when you can stop, when you can test, etc. Would you address that just a bit?
Yeah, and every state has its own laws, so the rules are not consistent. Some, like for the data master test, which is the official evidentiary test, some states give it before the person's under arrest, some give it after. I worked in Indiana, we gave it after, so we give the person a chance to take the test before we arrested them. So even if we had probable cause, if they passed the test and they were not under arrest, we take them back to the car. But we had that evidence to support us in case they crashed later, where South Carolina arrested before the breath test. I mean, they arrested them before they gave them the data master test. I heard Tennessee, they do both, so they could be before or after. And so the bottom line is the police, when they're enforcing DUI, there's different reasons they can different laws. One act could fall under more than one law. It depends on what the level is. So you got the per se law, the .08. So simply, if I had a roadblock or road checkpoint, and the person was .08, that's enough to make the arrest. The department I worked for, the Alka sensor alone, which is the field breath test, which that number cannot be used in court, but in the field, if they tested .08 or more, we were forbidden to let them go without allowing them to take the data master breath test. If they refused, it would place them under arrest based on the data master alone. I mean, the Alka sensor alone. However, the Alka sensor breath test measures somebody, if they put alcohol in their breath like a mouthwash, they would test positive on that. Sometimes people try to fool us. Hey, I just did mouthwash. Then I'll say, okay, I'll just wait 15, 20 minutes to give you another test. So they're not going to fool me about the test. But because of liability, we were forbidden to let them go if it was 08 or more.
So
for the field test.
So if it was .8 or more, then you would take them back to the station and they would have the other test?
Yes, the data master test, the official breath test, that it has to be monitored. So it's either going to be at the jail or the police post. And so we had them at both. So I usually go to the jail and offer them the data master test. If they refuse the data master test, the first several words I would have said in the field was, I got probable cause, think you're intoxicated. I must give you the opportunity to take the breath test. Will you take it? If they say no, I already said I got probable cause, so they're under arrest. Then I would get a search warrant and go for the blood. But the problem with the blood test, and we could use blood, is that the hospital didn't tell us the results right away. It might be maybe a week or two later. So for the person, if they did comply, in Indiana, the police, within 3 hours after we make contact with them, the police can demand whatever test they want, as many as they want, blood, breath, or urine. So if I want the blood and they comply, the problem is I don't know the results right away. So what am I going to do with the person? I have to arrest them because I said I got probable cause. Where if they take a breath test and they pass, they're free to leave. So it's easier, quicker to take a breath test. If they refuse, it's the cameras there. The hospital, they could refuse once we get there. Then I got to go back and take them to the jail, go to the judge, get the warrant, come back.
So it's really tied up with technology. I'm thinking it would be nice if they had a little blood tester like you use when your blood sugar is high or low. Just prick your finger and...
Of course, that raised another question is about who can take the blood. Of course, we would always have the medical personnel take it because as police officers, we're not doctors, we're not physicians. Now, even it got so bad that we couldn't even take the taser hooks out of people. Once we tased them, it was a medical procedure, so we were forbidden to do it. We had to call EMT to take the hooks out of people.
Wow.
Pull them out, yeah.
And what happens if you suspect somebody of driving while they're under, oxy?
Well, it wouldn't
that's
matter.
Not a blood test.
No,
right?
it doesn't. Now, if it's drugs, we do want the blood. If it's alcohol, I could do. I would prefer breath. It's quicker. I could do blood. Urine also, so like marijuana for certain drugs, I'll take the urine. I won't take it, but take them to the hospital and have it taken if they don't comply. But the blood, now the law basically says, there's two different laws, like I said. One is per se .08 alcohol, but the other law says if they're driving imprudently, if their faculties are impaired, And part of that will probably say that if they have any type of drugs in their system. Now, we don't really care whether if it's a drug that compromises the driving ability. So it doesn't matter if it's a prescription drug or not. If it's prescription, you're driving drunk, you're under arrest because you don't have the right to risk other people's lives. So we always think about safety issues. And in some states, in Indiana, we didn't say operate a motor vehicle while intoxicated. We simply said operate a vehicle, and horses are considered vehicles. So if you're on a horse and you're intoxicated, guess what? DUI. Because we have a lot of Amish, and Amish fall asleep behind the, in their cars behind the horses. Horses, they know the way home, but they can't read signs or lights, and so a lot of accidents. So we say you operate a vehicle while intoxicated. But so you have to look at the state law books.
Would get intoxicated.
I wondered that too.
So you got to go to this always, and I tell the students, it's not me that's the ultimate authority, it's the law book. So you got to go to the law book, look up the elements of law, and find out what that particular law is in that state. So when I teach, I don't always focus on one state. As if I give a law or pick a law out of a book based on this, what are you going to do?
What about a passenger in a car? What are the rules and laws about?
Some of those laws have changed. When I was a trooper, if you're in your car, you're in a highway, you're in public. So we would arrest the passengers for public intoxication because it was dangerous to let them walk along the highway intoxicated. But the problem is, new court ruling says if you put them in that environment, if you force them out of the car, in Indiana, if you're in the car, you're in public. But some states, if you force them out of the car, they have to be out of the car to be in public. And if you tell them to get out, you put them in that situation. Now you can't enforce it because you created it. And so, so basically, the passengers will be okay, probably as long as they stay in the car. Once they get out, and we don't want them to get hit by other cars. And I worked on a highway that was fences down it. It was limited access, so there's nowhere for them to go. So we don't want them to cause problems. So we would generally, nowadays, it'd probably be okay until they got out. And they can't drive, of course.
What about searching the car?
If I wanted to search a car, I went ask the driver, hey, mind if I search the car? And if he says yes, not an issue. I can open it. I can go through the things that he allows me to go through. If he doesn't limit me, I'll even ask him to pop the trunk. Of course, we should never search alone. It's safety issues. We should always never be alone when we do that. But if there was a passenger in the car and the passenger says, hey, I don't want you to look in my cases. His are blue. You can look in his, but do not look in mine. They're red. You don't open the suitcase and trunk. They're red. They're mine. Then I can't look in them because I'm still only based on consent. However, if I smell marijuana in the car, now I got probable cause to search the car. Now I'm going to search through everything. So even the passenger stuff is not going to stop me.
It used to be that law enforcement officers could search, period, and then the law changed. Is that right?
Never when I was the police. Always, they have a right to. The Fourth Amendment's all about the privacy of people, and we don't want to encroach upon that. So.
Okay. So let's say someone gets arrested, and they go to court, and they get adjudicated, and then what happens? They go to jail.
Many times, well, the judge is the ultimate authority in the courtroom. Depends on the crime. The prosecutor, a lot of times, they'll plea bargain, negotiate things, so he may plead guilty to something else. I'll tell you, though, that talk about prosecutors, if I asked the students the other day, I said, who's the ultimate law authority in this area? Is it the city police, county police, state police? And they said they thought it was the state. I said, nope, it's the prosecutor. Ultimately, he's the one that files with the court. All the different police departments file with the prosecutor. Prosecutor files with the court. Prosecutor, solicitor, different areas use different terms. But the important point is that when I worked right on the county line, and I stopped some juveniles who were intoxicated, or they were drinking like a .06, which is not quite intoxicated necessarily. Could be, but not necessarily. But they have no tolerance, so I could arrest for minor consuming. The prosecutor in one county says, did you see him drink it in my county? If you didn't see him drink it, he didn't consume it. You can't arrest him for that. The other county over right next to him says, hey, if it's being metabolized, it's being consumed, arrest him. So I worked I lived on the county line, so on one side of the street, see a kid is .06, you're okay. You cross the street, now you're under arrest. Because the prosecutor makes that call.
90% of the cases are solved by the prosecutor or by a plea agreement, right?
Oh, yes. That's why some of the police misconduct happens, is the police know that a person's rights can only really be challenged if it goes to court. If a plea bargain's out, it's not an issue. So if the police misbehave, 90% of the time, it will never be a factor.
So the students that you guys have right now, because of that elective, those electives they get to take, they can decide whether they want to learn more about working in the prosecutor's office or working in defense. Is that right? Or going straight into, I mean, do you have to have a bachelor's degree to be a police officer?
Many jobs, no, especially local, don't require a degree at all. But if you don't get the degree, you probably won't get promoted. Federal law enforcement, many of them do require a bachelor's degree.
But to work like for Jared Effler, the prosecutor's office, those types of jobs do require a bachelor's degree? Or to, let's say, be a
Usually.
bailiff in the court or things like that?
Bailiff in the court, you'd be a law enforcement officer.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Most of the students who do a practicum with Jared Effler are going to law school. That's their plan. One of the new things or newer things that's happening in the court system is diversion courts and alternative sentencing. So folks who are mentally ill, instead of going directly into the criminal justice system, will be sent to a drug court or a mental health court, and then they'll be tracked into rehabilitation and treatment. And sometimes that will substitute for criminal court. Other times they'll have to go to criminal court after they finish their rehabilitation time. But I think we have so many problems in our criminal justice system. But at the same time, we've got some really great things going on. One of the really cool things is restorative justice. Originally, restorative justice was just used for juveniles, and it's a process where the juvenile and the juvenile's supporters or family and that's the offender, then the victim and the victim's family and a facilitator will all get together, tell their stories, and come up with a sanction that they all agree on. And the best thing about that, one of the really bad things about our criminal justice system is that we treat ex-felons as the other, that we want them away, gone. And restorative justice brings them in. They're never excluded, that they stay in the fold. And the recidivism rate for restorative justice processes are much, much lower than criminal court. As criminal court, you go to jail, you go to prison, you get to learn how to be a better criminal.
I can imagine in communities like ours, which are so especially tight-knit, something like that could be so
great.
valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed. There are all kinds of programs that are restorative justice. Victim offender mediation, often those are done in prisons, where an offender and a surrogate victim or vice versa will meet and talk about the crime. Mostly victims just need to know why. What happened? The
A surrogate victim would be someone who has suffered from the same crime, but not from that.
not with that offender.
I see,
right?
yeah.
Peacemaking circles from the Navajo traditions, other traditions, the Wagga Wagga in Australia. It has a long tradition.
I see.
I think we're running out of time, so I don't want to start a new topic.
Come back.
Right. Thank you for listening. It's been great fun. Thank you, Dr. Davis. Thank you, Rachel,
You're
for being
welcome.
here and supporting the program and supporting LMU and the School of Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences.
Support for this program has been made possible by Lincoln Memorial University in Harrogate, Tennessee. Further information on academics, campus life, educational programs, admissions, and financial aid, you can go to www.lmunet.edu. This afternoon's program was produced by Dr. Martin Sellers and Dr. Thrush, and our technical producer is Gary Daniels. Our student production assistant is John Hobbs. Our program director is Clay Stanifer, and our executive producer is Adam Haley. Now, our theme music is White Horses, as performed by Tierra Negra and Muriel Anderson. American Culture, Arts, Humanities, and Social Sciences at LMU will rebroadcast again on this Saturday at 10 a.m., then Sunday at 8 p.m., and next Tuesday at 7 a.m. This has been a WLMU radio broadcast. Thank you for listening in.